The pharma companies can actually write off as a business expense their advertising costs. So they can charge, they can put up on television these ads about their drugs that they're then charging us 250, 300% more for than other countries and other consumers. And
300%? 300% more?
And then they can take that, all of those costs that they use on their advertisements, and they can write them off. So effectively, the American taxpayer is subsidizing these big pharma companies that don't seem to me like they need any more subsidies than they already get, and yet they're getting subsidized by the U.S. tax code. I just think we ought to end that.
You know what we call that where I come from? Theft. Not price gouging, theft.
I want to talk a little bit about the cost of prescription drugs. You noted in your testimony, your written testimony, that the United States pays the highest prices for prescription drugs anywhere in the world. I was just looking at some of the numbers this morning. We pay about 250% more than 32 comparison countries in the last 2021 Rand Corporation analysis. I mean, that's extraordinary. Insulin, for example, average U.S. price per standard unit of insulin is $98.70. In Australia, it's $6.94. It's $12 in Canada. It's $7.52 in U.S. dollars in the United Kingdom. I mean, that's really just extraordinary. Why shouldn't we require by law some form of index pricing where we say to the pharma companies, look, you can set the price how you want on the global market, but taking the industrialized countries or Western European countries, or choose your set of countries, I mean, whatever would be appropriate economically, you can't charge in the U.S. more than the average price that you're charging in these other similar markets. I mean, is there something wrong with that, and what would you suggest as an alternative if so?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that if it's done well. We have to be careful about who we're referencing to and exactly which prices we might be referencing. But you're absolutely right. We pay more than every other country by far in the world for prescription drugs. 340B reform is important. I'm glad we're here today to talk about 340B reform, but it isn't going to solve the problem that you mentioned. We need other solutions to solve that problem. I think doing international reference pricing is one solution. Expanding the price negotiation under the Inflation Reduction Act is another solution. Patent reform to make sure that we get generics and biosimilars on the market is another solution. There are a lot of ways to lower drug prices in our country, but we have not been managing to do that for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's obvious, and everybody who is out there paying these prices for prescription drugs, I mean, people just can't afford it. I mean, the cost of insurance is totally unaffordable as it is. And then you add on top of that prescription drugs, those that aren't covered by insurance, even those that are, I mean, the prices are they're just astronomical. And I just don't understand it. I don't understand why American consumers should have to pay 250, 300% more. Senator Welch and I have a bill on international index reference pricing. We just say the pharma companies can set the price in the market, the global market, where they want it. But what they cannot do is, listen, I'm a former prosecutor. We used to call this price gouging. What they cannot do is gouge the American consumer by saying we're going to pay $100 for insulin, and meanwhile the same companies are charging $10 in Canada. I just think that's totally outrageous. While I'm on the subject of the pharma companies, can I just ask you something else as a matter of policy? Is it really a good idea for the American taxpayer to subsidize the television commercials of pharma companies advertising all of their overpriced drugs on TV? I mean, do you have an opinion on this?
I don't think that is a good idea, but I would love to hear more about what specifically you're referring to.
Well, what happens currently is the pharma companies can actually write off as a business expense their advertising costs. So they can charge, they can put up on television these ads about their drugs that they're then charging us 250, 300% more for than other countries and other consumers, and then they can take that, all of those costs that they use on their advertisements, and they can write them off. So effectively, the American taxpayer is subsidizing these big pharma companies that don't seem to me like they need any more subsidies than they already get, and yet they're getting subsidized by the U.S. tax code. I just think we ought to end that. I mean, we ought to say, listen, if you want to advertise on TV, which I'm not sure is a great idea anyway, but putting that to one side, if you want to advertise direct to consumer, that's fine. You do that on your own dime. Why are we subsidizing you? I just think that's insane. I mean, do you have a reaction to that?
I completely agree. I think it's a terrible idea that we have these commercials in the first place. We're one of the only countries in the world where you can advertise directly to consumers. And so I agree with you.
Let me just ask you one other thing in my remaining seconds here. Do you have a view on the rapid consolidation of pharmacies, the loss of independent pharmacies in this country, PBMs buying up pharmacies left, right, and center, in some cases PBMs buying up doctors' practices, buying up hospitals, integrating all of them? I mean, basic economics would tell us when you have that kind of integration, that kind of vertical integration, you're going to get an increase in prices. Do you think that has anything to do with the increase in drug prices that we've seen, and can we do something about it?
I do think it can contribute, for sure. I think that having these big consolidated entities that control all aspects of care is not a good idea. And I think that efforts to restrict that, to limit that, would be helpful.
I do too, and I think frankly we just shouldn't allow the PBMs to buy up other parts of the supply chain. We've got 2 counties, I'll finish with this, Mr. Chairman. We've got 2 entire counties in Missouri now that have no pharmacies, 0. We used to have more independent pharmacies than just about any state in the nation. Now we have some of the fewest, and we've got whole counties where you can't find a pharmacy. And yet these big companies, these big PBMs, they make more money than ever before. It's a racket. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.